She didn't lose interest. That's the lie you've been telling yourself for weeks now. You've replayed the last conversation 40 times. You've searched her name at 2 a.m. You've built an entire theory about what went wrong, and every single theory keeps you stuck. Because every single theory is wrong. Here's the sentence that's going to ruin your evening and save your next relationship. The moment she pulled away wasn't the moment she stopped caring. It was the moment something inside her got activated. Something older than you, older than this relationship. Something that has nothing to do with your jokes, your job, or your jawline. So, why did the smartest, calmest woman you've ever dated suddenly start acting like a stranger the second you leaned in? Stay with me. This is going to get uncomfortable before it gets useful. If you're watching this at 1 a.m. with your phone, brightness turned down so it doesn't wake anyone, this one's for you. Not the guy scrolling for entertainment. The guy who did everything right and still got left holding an explanation that never came. I'm not going to tell you she's crazy. I'm not going to tell you all women are the same. And I'm definitely not going to give you a script to win her back by Thursday. That's not what tonight is about. What I am going to do is show you the actual mechanism, the psychological wiring behind why a woman who seemed into you can go quiet, distant, or gone within days. Not because of a movie plot betrayal, not because she met someone better, because something got triggered, and once you understand the trigger, an entire category of confusion in your life just disappears. Here's my promise. By the end of this video, you will understand 3 things that almost no man ever gets explained to him in plain language. What pursuit actually does to a woman's nervous system, why closeness can feel like danger even when nothing is wrong, and what the difference is between a woman who's done and a woman who's protecting herself. Those are 3 completely different situations that look identical from the outside. And most men respond to all 3 the exact same way, which is exactly why it keeps happening. Let me plant something here because I want you thinking about it for the rest of the video. There is a specific moment, a single identifiable moment, where a woman decides whether to lean toward you or shut the door. It is not the moment you think it is. Most men believe it's the big romantic gesture, the deep conversation, the "I really like you" text. It's actually something much smaller, much quieter, and it happens dozens of times before anyone notices the pattern. And here's the second thing I want sitting in the back of your mind. Withdrawal is not always rejection. Sometimes withdrawal is the most honest thing a person can do. It can be self-protection dressed up as coldness. It can be someone trying to figure out if they're safe with you before they let you see the parts of them nobody else gets to see. The tragedy is that most men interpret that silence as a verdict, when it's often still a question. We're going to unpack all of this, the psychology of attachment, the biology of trust, and what you can actually control in a situation that feels completely out of your hands. Because there is something you can control here. There always is. Let's get into what's really happening in her head when she starts pulling back, because it's not what you've been telling yourself. Most men believe the same story. She got bored, she lost attraction, some other guy showed up with a nicer car and a better jawline, and just like that, you became invisible. That story feels true because it's simple. It's also almost never what actually happened. Here's what actually happens, more often than not. A woman starts to feel herself getting attached to you, and for a huge number of women, especially ones who've been hurt before, who've had a parent who left, a partner who lied, or a childhood where love came with conditions, getting attached doesn't feel like relief. It feels like exposure. This is attachment theory in plain English. The same nervous system that lights up with excitement when she likes you is wired to the same alarm system that protects her from getting hurt again. Those 2 systems aren't separate. They're tangled together. So the closer she gets to you, the louder the alarm gets. Not because you did something wrong, but because closeness itself is the trigger. Think about that for a second. The very thing you're doing right, being consistent, being present, being genuinely interested, is the exact thing that can set off her internal alarm. If her nervous system learned somewhere along the way that closeness ends in pain. Now, here's where it gets more specific because attachment issues is a phrase people throw around without explaining what it actually looks like in real time. Picture Sarah, 29 years old, 2 years out of a relationship where her ex love bombed her for 6 months and then disappeared for weeks at a time. She meets a new guy. Let's call him Josh. Josh is steady. Josh texts back. Josh remembers what she said about her sister's wedding 3 weeks ago. For the first month, Sarah is warm, engaged, funny, everything Josh hoped for. Then Josh says something completely normal, something like, I really like where this is going. And Sarah goes quiet for 2 days. Josh assumes he scared her off. What actually happened is Sarah's brain did something called cognitive dissonance resolution. Her conscious mind likes Josh, but her nervous system just received a signal. This is getting real. And real to her body has historically meant this is where it starts hurting. So her mind has two competing truths. I like this, and this is dangerous. And the fastest way for a stressed nervous system to resolve that conflict isn't logic, it's distance. Distance feels like safety, even when the person creating the danger signal hasn't done anything dangerous at all. This is ego protection at work, and it's not conscious. Sarah isn't sitting there strategizing how to punish Josh. Her body made a decision before her mind was even consulted. Here's the part that should genuinely change how you see every she went cold story from your past. The intensity of the withdrawal often tells you more about the size of the wound than about the size of the mistake. A woman who disappears after one intense conversation isn't telling you that conversation was too much. She's telling you her alarm system is set on a hair trigger, and that's information about her history, not a verdict on your worth. So what's the difference then between a woman who's protecting herself and a woman who's genuinely done? That's the question that actually matters, and it's the one nobody answers honestly. A woman who's protecting herself usually still engages, just from further away. She'll still respond, still show flickers of warmth, still leave the door cracked even while she's testing you. A woman who's genuinely done stops testing altogether because testing requires investment, and she's no longer investing anything in finding out if you're safe. That distinction is everything, and it's exactly what we're going to build on in the next section, because once you can tell the difference, you stop wasting energy chasing people who've already left, and you stop abandoning people who just needed you to stay steady for a little longer. Understanding the psychology is step one. What you actually do with it is where most men fall apart. So let's break this into specific, actionable steps: what to do, why it works, and the mistake that undoes it. Step 1. Stop matching her distance with your own performance. When a woman pulls back, the instinctive male response is to increase effort, more texts, more explaining, more "did I do something wrong?" messages. Here's the psychology. Extra pursuit reads as pressure, and pressure is the exact sensation her nervous system is trying to escape. You're pouring water on a fire alarm. What actually works is reducing the intensity without disappearing. Respond when she reaches out, stay warm, stay consistent, but stop initiating in a way that says, I need reassurance from you right now. Calm, steady presence signals safety far louder than words ever will. The common mistake here is confusing calm with cold. Going silent out of hurt pride isn't the same as giving space with intention. She can feel the difference even through a phone screen. One says, I respect your process. The other says, I'm punishing you. Step 2, let her come back toward you at her own pace and actually watch for it. This is the step men skip because it requires patience instead of action, and patience feels like losing. It isn't. When someone's nervous system is recalibrating, they need to reapproach the situation on their own terms to prove to themselves it's safe. If you close that gap for her every single time, she never gets the chance to prove it to herself. She only gets to prove it to you, which doesn't count the same way internally. Watch for small reapproaches, a text about something unrelated, a like on something you posted, a longer reply than usual. These are tests, not manipulative tests, instinctive ones. Meet them with warmth, not interrogation. Don't say, oh, now you want to talk. Just be there, steady, like you were the whole time. The mistake here is misreading silence as permission to escalate pressure one more time. One more heartfelt text after she's already asked for space doesn't read as romantic. It reads as confirmation that her alarm was right. Step 3. Get honest about which category you're actually in. Go back to the Sarah and Josh distinction. Is she still leaving the door cracked, still responding, still occasionally warm, or has she gone fully silent with no flickers at all? This determines everything about what you do next. If there are still flickers, patience and steadiness are your entire strategy. If there are none, no response, no engagement, nothing for weeks, continuing to wait isn't patience anymore. It's avoidance of a truth you don't want to face. The psychology here matters. Hope without evidence isn't optimism. It's a coping mechanism. It protects you from the harder work of actually grieving something and moving forward. Reading her actual behavior, not your preferred interpretation of it, is what separates men who eventually reconnect with someone from men who spend 8 months waiting on a phone that was never going to light up again. The common mistake is treating every case like it's recoverable. Some are, some genuinely aren't. Confusing the two costs you months of your life you don't get back. Step 4. Do the internal work regardless of which category you're in. This is the step that changes your next relationship even if this one doesn't work out. Ask yourself honestly, were you also bringing some version of urgency into this? Checking her responsiveness like a scoreboard? Needing her warmth to regulate your own anxiety? That's not a character flaw. It's incredibly common. But it's also something her nervous system can detect even when your words sound calm. The psychology behind this step is simple. People don't just respond to what you say. They respond to your internal state underneath what you say. If you're anxious and disguising it as chill, she'll feel the mismatch before she can name it. Doing the work of actually regulating your own nervous system through whatever practice works for you isn't a self-help cliche. It's the single biggest lever you have because it changes the actual signal you're sending, not just the words wrapped around it. The mistake is skipping this step because it's slower and less satisfying than a clever text. It is slower. It's also the only thing that actually works long term in this relationship or the next one. I know what the last few weeks have felt like. The checking, the rereading old messages, looking for a clue you missed, the specific kind of exhausted that comes from caring about something you can't control. Here's what I need you to sit with. Your anxiety is not going to speed this up. It never has for anyone in the history of relationships. The men who come out the other side of this, either back with her or genuinely at peace without her, are not the ones who found the perfect text. They're the ones who stopped needing an answer right now in order to feel okay. That's the reframe. You've been treating uncertainty like an emergency. It isn't one. Uncertainty is just uncertainty. It's uncomfortable, not dangerous. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference unless you teach it the difference, and you teach it by proving to yourself day after day that you can sit in not knowing without falling apart. Rewind to what we talked about earlier. Her withdrawal was never really about your value. It was about her wiring, her history, her nervous system doing what it learned to do long before you showed up. Some women will come back towards steadiness once they trust it's real. Some won't, because their wiring needs more than any one relationship can give them, and that was never something you could have fixed from the outside anyway. Either outcome is survivable. What isn't survivable, what will actually cost you something real, is spending the next 6 months performing calm on the outside while you're checking her name every hour on the inside. That's not patience. That's just suffering with better posture. Real patience looks boring from the outside. It looks like going back to your actual life, your training, your work, the friends you've been neglecting since this started. Not as a manipulation tactic to make her miss you, as an actual return to the person you were before you started outsourcing your peace to someone else's phone. The woman who eventually chooses you, whether that's her or someone down the line, isn't going to fall for a man who performed indifference while quietly falling apart. She's going to fall for the man who was actually okay, not pretending. actually okay. That's not something you can fake your way into. You have to build it. So build it. If this helped you see your situation more clearly, hit subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. And drop a comment below telling me where you're at right now. I read every single one, and some of you need to hear that you're not the only man up at 1 a.m. trying to figure this out.